Welcome back to one another lecture of environment. Today we will be discussing about the functions of ecosystem. In our previous lectures we have discussed in detail about the ecosystem, its properties, its types, etc. So today we will be discussing about the functions of ecosystem. There are 4 important functions for an ecosystem, such as ecological succession, homeostasis, energy flow through the food chain, and nutrient cycling. So in this lecture we will be discussing about the first 2 functions of ecosystem, right? So starting with ecological succession. Ecological succession is a process by which community of plant and animal species in an area are replaced or changed into another over a period of time is known as ecological succession. So let me explain it in detail. Let us consider a rocky area. So here in this area there is no other thing present other than this rock. With time this area is inhabited by lichens and mosses, right? So microorganisms, and then this lichens and mosses are slowly converted into grasses, right? Again these grasses are replaced by small trees, which again is replaced by a big forest. This entire process where an area transformed from a bare rocky area to a forest is called as ecological succession. So what leads to ecological succession? It may be due to large scale changes or may be due to a destruction, which may be natural or man-made. So there are a few important terms with respect to ecological succession. The first one is pioneer community. What is a pioneer? Pioneer is someone or it refers to a person or a thing that initiates a particular thing, right? Here the first plant to colonize an area is called as pioneer community. As I said, pioneer community is usually microorganisms such as lichens and mosses. So climax community. We all know when does a climax occurs? Climax occurs at the end. So climax is the final stage of succession. Example here, forest. Next important definition is successional stages, right? The stages leading to climax community or the successional stages. For example, this is a bare rocky stage. So this is the pioneer stage, and then here it is inhabited by grasses. These stages are called as the successional stages, and the community occupying a particular stage is called as succession or the seral community, right? I hope the above concepts are clear. Let's move on to the character of succession, right? What happens when an area moves from a bare rock to the forest, right? Here the bare rock is converted into lichens, then it is inhabited by small plants. Likewise, what happens here is there will be increase in productivity. Why productivity increases? Because there is a diversity. The diversity of organism is getting increased. Initially the area consisted only of the microbes. Later it started having grasslands. Here there will be grasslands and some microorganisms. Again the grasses will be replaced by small trees. So here again there will be diversity of organisms. So the organism diversity will keeps on increasing. With increasing diversity of organism there will be complexity of food web, right? So what are the characteristics of ecological succession? There will be, as ecological succession proceeds, there will be increase in productivity, there will be an increase in the diversity of organisms, and there will be increase in the complexity of food web. So let us move on to the types of succession. First one is the primary succession. Here what is a primary succession? Primary succession takes place over an area where no community has existed previously. For example, in case of newly formed delta, or in case of a rock, or in case of sand dunes, there would have been no community existed before. When a succession happens in such an area, it is called as primary succession. Let us see how a primary succession happen in a particular area. Let us consider this as a rock, and here the rock is occupied by lichens and mosses. So soon lichens and mosses will die. Once it dies, they will be decomposed by the bacteria. Decomposition produce organic acids, and along with that there will also be organic debris of this dead lichens and microbes, right? This organic acids release nutrients, and this organic debris, see, rocks are crevices, right? Like this. Crevices is nothing but the cracks. So these organic debris closes the crevices and provide a flat area, a soil for the growth of plant community, and the nutrients released by the organic acids together lead to the growth of new organism, which again leads to the formation of a climax community. As we seen before, this is how a primary succession happens, right? Let us discuss two more types of succession, autotrophic and heterotrophic succession. As the name indicates, if in a succession the green plants are greater in number, it is called as autotrophic succession, as green plants are the autotrophs. And if the succession is dominated by the heterotrophs, then it is called as heterotrophic succession. Next, moving on to the secondary succession. So, secondary succession is the sequential development of a biotic community after the complete or partial destruction of an existing community. That is, see, in this diagram, there was a community existing before. There was a forest before. Let us assume a forest fire happens and it destroys the entire community. So, it will render only the soil. Every other thing will be destroyed. And again from this soil a new community develops. Okay, such a process in which a previously existing community is completely destroyed and then a new community is formed is called as secondary succession, right? In this there are two types of succession, autogenic succession and allogenic succession, right? I'll explain autogenic succession with an example. Let us consider a grassland, right? So in a grassland usually there will be scarcity of water. There will be the water availability will be less in that area, and in summer seasons or in a season where temperature is high, these grasses get fire, right? They get caught by fire, and this entire community will be destroyed, and once again there will be growth of lichens and mosses, and there will be again grasses. In this area no other community other than grasses will develop because there is scarcity of water. So this type of succession is called as autogenic succession, where living inhabitants of that community, in case of grasslands, the grasses themselves bring about succession, then it is called as autogenic succession. So in every other community, the forest or the climax community except grassland. So in grasslands the grasses will always be the climax community, right? So let's discuss few terms when it comes to succession in plants. The first term is xerarch. When a succession happens on a land where moisture content is low, like that of a desert or in a rocky area, such succession is called as xerarch. And when a succession takes place in a water body like a pond or a lake, it is called as hydrarch. As the name indicates, hydra. Hydra means water, right? When a succession takes place in water, it is called as hydrarch. So these hydrarch and xerarch succession lead to what? Forest. So these forests where there is which are neither too dry nor too wet is called as mesic community. So the hydrarch and xerarch succession always lead to the mesic community, that is the forest. Moving on to succession in water, it is similar as to land except the fact that there will be different species in this, right? Here the succession start with the phytoplankton, instead of lichens and mosses as in the terrestrial ecosystem, here the pioneer community will be phytoplankton, none other than the water like microorganisms that are present in water, like that of an algae, cyanobacteria, right? So these phytoplanktons will be replaced by angiosperms, right? Angiosperms are nothing but the flowering plants. These angiosperms will be then replaced by rooted hydrophytes. Hydrophytes are nothing but the aquatic plants. They will be replaced by sedges. Sedges are monocotyledon plants, and then they will be replaced by grasses. Grasses will finally lead to trees. Once again, even in an aquatic ecosystem, the climax community is always the forest, right? So as time passes, this water body will be converted to land, and the phytoplankton will be converted into the forest, right? So moving on to next important function of the ecosystem, that is homeostasis. Homeostasis is nothing but a maintenance of stable equilibrium or ability to resist changes, right? What happens here is, I will explain it with an example. For example, let us consider a pond. Let us assume this as a pond. In this pond, there are few phytoplanktons and there are few zooplankton. As we all know, these zooplanktons feed on these phytoplanktons, right? If suddenly these zooplanktons increase, right, there is an increase of zooplankton. So they will consume the phytoplankton more. As a result, the number of phytoplankton will decrease, right? Once there is a shortage of phytoplankton, the number of zooplanktons will also decrease, and it again get back to its original position. Here, what happened is, even after changes, the equilibrium state of the environment is maintained. Such a process is called as homeostasis, right? One more example for this is cooling one's body through sweating process. So let us consider when we go under sun, due to the heat of the sun, our body started sweating, so which reduces the heat caused by the exposure to sun. So this is again an example of homeostasis. So that's all for today. Let's move on to the PYQs. First question is that in the grasslands, trees do not replace the grasses as a part of ecological succession. This I discussed before, because in grassland there will be lack of water and fire component, right? So here C is the answer. Next question is, in nature, which of the following is likely to be found surviving on the surface without soil? Which is, here they are asking for the pioneer community. Whenever you hear the term pioneer community, suddenly immediately lichens and mosses should come to your mind. So here lichens and mosses, so 2 and 3 will be the answer. So again, lichens, which are capable of initiating ecological succession or bedrock, are actually the symbiotic association of, they are a symbiotic association of algae and fungi, right? Remember this, lichens are a symbiotic association of algae and fungi. Symbiotic association is nothing but an association where both the organism is benefited. Algae is benefited from the fungi and fungi will be benefited from the algae, right? That's all for today. Next video will be on food chain and food web, which is again the function of ecosystem. So that's all. Thank you, and like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to comment your doubts. I'll be addressing your doubts in the next video.